Imagine someone handed you the complete instruction manual for life. Not a motivational quote, not a self-help book. The actual operating system behind success, failure, power, relationships, and human behavior. Would you read it? Here's the problem. Most people wouldn't like what it says, because the truth is far less comforting than the stories we've been told. Think about every self-help book you've ever seen. Hundreds of pages, complicated systems, morning routines that require military-level discipline, endless hacks. But what if the reason you're stuck isn't because life is complicated? What if it's because life is actually simple? And simple answers don't sell. Here's a disturbing possibility. While you're searching for the secret to success, life has been screaming the answer at you the entire time. You're just too distracted to hear it. In this video, we're going to combine the ruthless realism of Niccolò Machiavelli with modern neuroscience to reveal something most people never understand. The world doesn't operate according to how you wish it worked. It operates according to how it actually works. And the difference between those two realities determines almost everything. 500 years ago, a man sat alone in exile. He had lost his position, lost his power, been tortured, been humiliated. Most people would have become bitter. Instead, he decided to study reality. His name was Niccolò Machiavelli, and what he discovered still makes people uncomfortable centuries later. Because Machiavelli understood something most people spend their entire lives avoiding. Life does not reward good intentions. Life rewards accuracy. Read that again. Life does not reward good intentions. Life rewards accuracy. You can be kind and still fail. You can work hard and still lose. You can deserve success and never receive it. Reality does not negotiate with your expectations. And that's exactly why so many people suffer. Not because life is unfair, because they're fighting reality instead of understanding it. Most people walk through life looking through a smudged windshield. They see what they want to be true, not what is true. They believe loyalty is permanent. That effort guarantees reward, that people will always do the right thing. Then reality arrives. A betrayal, a rejection, a disappointment, and suddenly they're shocked. But Machiavelli wasn't shocked by human nature. He studied it. He understood that people are often loyal to circumstances before they're loyal to principles. Change the circumstances. Watch the behavior change. That sounds cynical, but it's actually liberating. Because once you stop expecting people to behave according to fantasy, you can finally start building your life according to reality. And reality is predictable. Human beings respond to incentives. They respond to self-interest. They respond to emotion. Understanding this doesn't make you pessimistic. It makes you effective. Here's where most people go wrong. They spend years trying to change the weather, try to control things that were never theirs to control. Other people, economic conditions, luck, timing, the opinions of strangers. And while they're busy fighting forces beyond their influence, they're neglecting the only thing they actually control, themselves. Which leads us to Machiavelli's most important idea. A concept that explains why some people thrive during chaos while others collapse. He called it Virtù and Fortuna. And once you understand it, you'll never look at success the same way again. Most people believe success belongs to the smartest person in the room. Machiavelli disagreed. He believed life was controlled by two forces, Virtù and Fortuna. And understanding the difference between them might completely change how you view your future. Imagine your life as a river. Sometimes the water is calm, predictable, easy to navigate. Then suddenly a storm arrives. The river floods. The current changes. Everything becomes chaotic. That storm is Fortuna. Fortuna is luck, timing, economic crashes, unexpected opportunities, accidents, illness, the family you were born into, the country you happen to grow up in, the betrayal you never saw coming, the opportunity that appeared out of nowhere. Fortuna controls a huge portion of life, and that's what makes so many people feel powerless. Because no matter how intelligent you are, you cannot control the storm. You cannot negotiate with reality. You cannot ask life to be fair. The river doesn't care what you deserve. It only flows. But here's the part most people miss. Machiavelli believed that Fortuna controls only part of your life. The rest belongs to Virtù. Virtù is your ability to respond, your discipline, your courage, your adaptability, your willingness to act when everyone else freezes. Virtue is the internal architecture you build before the flood arrives. Because when chaos eventually appears, and it always does, the question isn't whether you're ready. The question is whether you've spent your time preparing or complaining. Most people waste their virtue. They spend their energy arguing online, obsessing over things they can't control, reliving old mistakes, trying to win battles that don't matter. Then when life finally tests them, they discover they've built nothing. No resilience, no discipline, no mental strength, no foundation. The flood comes, and everything collapses. But some people walk through the exact same storm and emerge stronger. Not because they got lucky, because they prepared. They built the embankments before the river rose. And this leads to one of the strangest truths about success. The harder you chase it, the further away it often seems. Think about happiness. Have you ever noticed that the people desperately trying to be happy rarely are? The more they chase happiness, the more frustrated they become. The more they search for confidence, the more insecure they feel. The more they demand certainty, the more anxious they become. This phenomenon is known as the backwards law. The idea is simple. The more desperately you pursue something, the more you reinforce the belief that you don't have it. Imagine trying to fall asleep. The harder you try, the more awake you become. Imagine trying not to feel nervous. The more attention you give the feeling, the stronger it grows. Imagine desperately trying to impress someone. The desperation itself becomes the thing that pushes them away. Life is filled with these paradoxes. The person obsessed with appearing confident often appears insecure. The person obsessed with becoming rich often makes terrible decisions. The person obsessed with being liked often loses themselves entirely. Why? Because desperation broadcasts scarcity. It sends a silent message. I am not enough without this. And people can feel it. Opportunities can feel it. Even your own mind can feel it. Think of happiness like a butterfly. The more aggressively you chase it, the faster it escapes. But if you focus on building a meaningful life, creating value, and becoming stronger, happiness often arrives on its own. This doesn't mean you stop trying. It means you stop clinging. There's a difference. A martial artist doesn't defeat an opponent by using maximum force every second. A great surfer doesn't fight the ocean. A skilled sailor doesn't command the wind. They learn to work with reality instead of against it. And that's where most people fail. They're constantly forcing outcomes, forcing relationships, forcing success, forcing certainty. Meanwhile, life rewards those who combine effort with adaptability, discipline with flexibility, action with patience. You still climb the mountain. You just stop demanding to know exactly what the view will look like from the top. Because the truth is that uncertainty is not a problem to solve. It's the environment where growth happens. And that brings us to an even bigger problem. What if the thing sabotaging your progress isn't the world? What if it's your own mind? What if the voice in your head that sounds rational and intelligent is actually making up stories after the fact? Because modern neuroscience has uncovered something deeply unsettling. Your brain may be less like a camera and more like a fiction writer. And once you understand how that works, you'll realize why so many people stay trapped in the same patterns for years. What if I told you that your brain is lying to you right now? Not maliciously, not intentionally, but constantly. Most people imagine their mind works like a camera. You see reality. You record reality. You remember reality. Simple. Except neuroscience has discovered something unsettling. Your brain isn't a camera. It's a storyteller. And storytellers care far more about creating a believable narrative than preserving perfect accuracy. Think about your memories. They feel real, solid, reliable. But every time you remember something, your brain edits it, adds details, removes details, changes emotional emphasis, updates the story. In other words, your memories are less like video recordings and more like Wikipedia pages. Every time you open the page, you're also rewriting it. This is why two people can experience the exact same event and remember it completely differently years later. This is why eyewitness testimony is often surprisingly unreliable. This is why people can become prisoners of stories that no longer reflect reality. A failure becomes proof that they're not capable. A rejection becomes proof that they're not lovable. A mistake becomes proof that they're not good enough. Over time, these stories harden into identity. And once something becomes part of your identity, changing it feels almost impossible. But here's the opportunity hidden inside this discovery. If you've been editing your story your entire life, anyway, why not become a better editor? Why continue highlighting every failure while ignoring every victory? Why keep telling yourself a story that makes you weaker? You don't need to lie to yourself. You simply need to stop acting like your worst moments are the entire book. Because they're not. They're one chapter, and the next chapter hasn't been written yet. But understanding your stories isn't enough. You also need to understand your habits. Because your habits are writing your future whether you're paying attention or not. Every day, your brain is trying to conserve energy. It loves automation. It loves patterns. It loves repetition, which is why so much of your life runs on autopilot. Scientists call this a habit loop. Cue, routine, reward. Something triggers a behavior. You perform the behavior. You receive a reward. Then the cycle repeats. Stress becomes the cue. Scrolling becomes the routine. Distraction becomes the reward. Boredom becomes the cue. Junk food becomes the routine. Comfort becomes the reward. The brain doesn't care whether the habit helps or hurts you. It only cares whether the pattern works. And once a pattern becomes automatic, it starts controlling your life without permission. This is why willpower alone rarely works. You're trying to fight a system that's been running automatically for years. The solution isn't deleting the habit. The solution is replacing the routine. Keep the cue. Keep the reward. Change the behavior. Stress arrives? Go for a walk. Do push-ups. Write in a journal. Call a friend. The reward remains. But the outcome changes. Small changes like this seem insignificant until they aren't. Which brings us to one of the most powerful principles in existence. The 80-20 rule. The idea is simple. A small number of causes create the majority of results. 20% of your habits create 80% of your outcomes. 20% of your relationships create 80% of your happiness. 20% of your decisions shape most of your future. Yet most people spend their lives focused on the wrong 20%. They major in minor things. They spend hours optimizing things that barely matter. Meanwhile, the decisions that would genuinely change their lives are ignored. Imagine if you identified the few habits producing the majority of your results. Imagine if you doubled down on the relationships that actually mattered. Imagine if you spent less time managing distractions and more time strengthening what works. Your life would change dramatically, not because you became superhuman, because you became intentional. And that's where the compound effect takes over. Most people underestimate what a year can do. They expect massive change in a week, then quit when it doesn't happen. But life isn't built in weeks. It's built in days. A single workout doesn't transform your body. A single book doesn't transform your mind. A single dollar doesn't make you wealthy. But repeated consistently, everything changes. Small actions compound. Tiny improvements stack. One page becomes a book. One workout becomes a stronger body. One decision becomes a new life. This is why the universe seems unfair. Because results are delayed. People see the outcome. They don't see the years of invisible effort underneath it. They see the mountain peak. They don't see the climb. And that's why most people quit too early. They're planting seeds and expecting trees tomorrow. But reality doesn't work that way. Reality rewards consistency, not intensity. The person who improves 1% every day eventually surpasses the person who waits for perfect motivation. Because action creates momentum, and momentum creates transformation. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. His deepest contempt wasn't reserved for people who failed. It was reserved for people who refused to act. Because failure teaches. Failure provides data. Failure creates growth. Inaction creates nothing. The person who moved in the wrong direction at least learned something. The person who stood still learned nothing at all. And maybe that's the final lesson. You are not discovering your destiny. You are building it. Choice by choice. Habit by habit. Day by day. The river is rising. The world is changing. The future is coming whether you're ready or not. The question is simple. Will you spend your life waiting for permission, or will you build the strength to act anyway? Because life isn't won by the person who tries the hardest. Life is won by the person who sees reality clearly, understands how the game is played, and has the courage to move while everyone else is still waiting for certainty. The river is rising. It's time to start building your embankments.